Bob Marley, real situation. His birthday would have been tomorrow. And this is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I am Amy Goodman. As the Senate continues debate on President Obama's $900 billion economic stimulus plan, a coalition of environmental groups are calling on senators to remove a controversial provision that could lead to the construction of a new generation of nuclear power plants. The Senate bill includes a proposed $50 billion in federal loan guarantees that would likely go to nuclear power and liquid coal technologies. The amount's just a fraction of what the nuclear power industry is seeking. Last year, the industry asked Congress for $122 billion in loan guarantees in order to build 21 new nuclear reactors. No nuclear plant has been built in the U.S. since the meltdown at 3 Mile Island in 1979. Critics of the proposal question the safety of nuclear energy, doubt the federal loan guarantees would provide much of an immediate stimulus to the economy. But supporters of nuclear energy say nuclear should be considered a clean, safe, and emissions-free source of power. We're joined now by two guests to debate the issue. In the early 70s, they were both prominent members of the anti-nuclear movement. Today, they take opposing views on the future of nuclear energy. Harvey Wasserman is with us, an independent journalist, longtime anti-nuclear activist. In the early 70s, he helped found the grassroots movement against nuclear power in the U.S. and helped coin the phrase "no nukes." He joins us from Ohio via DN video stream. Patrick Moore is with us. He's co-founder and former leader of Greenpeace. He now serves as co-chair of the pro-nuclear Clean and Safe Energy Coalition, known as CASE. He's joining us from Boston. Let's start with you, Patrick Moore. Why do you support this provision in the stimulus plan?
Well, first, it's important to set the record straight on when the last nuclear plant was built. There were 47 nuclear plants commissioned in the 1980s. 3 Mile Island was in 1979, so it's not as if 3 Mile Island really marks the end of building nuclear in the States. About nearly half the plants in the United States were built after 3 Mile Island or commissioned after 3 Mile Island. I support nuclear power simply because I think we all made a big mistake in the 1970s by confusing nuclear energy with nuclear weapons. Greenpeace started against U.S. hydrogen bomb testing in Alaska. We were all scared as young people back then, myself at the University of BC doing a PhD in ecology, that we were going to be wiped out by an all-out nuclear war. And we thought everything nuclear was evil. That would be as foolish as thinking that nuclear medicine was evil. Nuclear medicine is a very beneficial use of nuclear technology, and the medical isotopes that are dangerous otherwise are used to diagnose and cure many, many millions of people every year. Those medical isotopes are made in nuclear reactors in the same way that we can make electricity in nuclear reactors, and I don't think we should mix the destructive versus the beneficial uses of nuclear technology up in the way we did back then.
Harvey Wasserman, why are you opposed? Why do you want this out of the stimulus plan?
Well, there's no reason for the United States taxpayers to get stuck with another $50 billion tab for building new reactors that Wall Street won't fund. Nuclear power has failed utterly in the marketplace, and it's back at the taxpayer trough trying to get more money. And this is a time when we actually need stimulus in our economy, and no nuclear plant that's funded now with taxpayer money could come online for at least a decade. It's a complete waste of money. It has no business being in the stimulus package, and people need to call their senators and congresspeople to stop this from happening. It's a real perversion of the stimulus package, and the Senate may vote on this as early as this week, possibly next week, and we have a very difficult struggle to get rid of this $50 billion boondoggle going into the stimulus package. It has no business being there, and what's more, the reactors that would go under construction will be dangerous. They will be terror targets. We have had experience with atomic reactors causing cancer, leukemia, birth defects in the nearby neighborhoods where they've been built. We have 50 years of experience with atomic power, and it's all been bad. So we have wind and solar and tidal and geothermal technologies that are ready to move ahead, along with the restoration of mass transit and the increasing efficiency in our economy. This is where our energy money needs to go, not to a failed 20th century technology that cannot get private funding, and by the way, that cannot get private insurance. The United States government and the taxpayers are still on the hook for the financial impacts of any major catastrophic meltdown. The public was told in 1957 that soon private insurers would come forward and insure nuclear power plants against major disasters. That has not happened. And to this day, the taxpayer is on the hook if we have a catastrophe by terror or error, and it seems to me that that needs to end.
Patrick Moore.
Well, actually, Amy, there's 104 nuclear power plants operating clean and safely every day in the United States, more than any other country in the world. Nuclear energy provides 20% of U.S. electricity, and that amounts to nearly 75% of the clean energy now being produced in the United States. It is simply impossible to run the world on wind and solar energy. They are intermittent. They don't work when the wind stops blowing or the sun stops shining, and we need backup power, baseload power that's there 24/7. Unless we build nuclear plants, we've got to keep building coal plants and more gas plants, which are fossil fuels that release greenhouse gas and cause air pollution. The whole reason for the nuclear renaissance around the world is energy security and climate change and the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions into the air. And Harvey and the rest of the people in my old organization of Greenpeace are stuck in the 1970s mentality. They have to come forward in time and think about what it is we can actually do. We're not going to run the country on tidal power, Harvey. It's just, that's a pie in the sky, and so is a lot of the other stuff about running the country on wind and solar. They have their place in the scheme of things, but they cannot run the country. So how are we going to produce the thousands of megawatts of power we need every day, especially when we're going to start charging our cars, our batteries, and our plug-in hybrids, which doesn't make any sense to charge a plug-in hybrid on a coal-fired power plant or a gas plant. It makes a lot of sense to charge it on hydroelectric, nuclear, and wind when the wind is blowing. But you know, you got to have something for when it isn't, the 2/3 of the time when it isn't. Unfortunately, every time you build a wind farm, you have to build a gas plant to back it up.
All right, let's get Harvey Wasserman's response to Patrick Moore.
Well, Patrick, unfortunately, hasn't advanced much since he's signed up with the nuclear power industry. Nuclear power is a failed technology. We have $50 billion lined up in the Congress that needs to stop and not come out of the taxpayer's pocket, because, among other things, the reactors that these $50 billion would fund cannot come online in less than a decade. We need the answers to our energy solutions now. It's nuclear power that's really pie in the sky. It's a failed technology. The first reactor went online in 1957 in Shippingport, Pennsylvania, and we have a half-century of experience with this. The nuclear industry still cannot get private insurance against a major catastrophe. You do not have to take out insurance on a wind farm against an accident or a terror attack that will destroy an entire city. We need to build technologies that will come online when it will bring us energy within a year or two, and that's wind, solar, tidal, geothermal, increased efficiency. The plan is there. Take a look at Carbon-Free, Nuclear-Free by Arjun Makhijani. There's plenty of other things, my own Solartopia book. We all have plans that are very clear.
Harvey, Stephen Chu, President Obama's energy secretary, seems to agree with Patrick Moore. Among the things he said was, this is Stephen Chu, there is certainly a changing mood in the country because nuclear is carbon-free, that we should look at it with new eyes.
That's fine, but the fact is that we disagree with Stephen Chu on that, and you also have to pay for these reactors. The Seabrook nuclear plant, Shoreham, 3 Mile Island itself, Diablo Canyon in California, these reactors came in at more than 500% over budget. The average construction cost for a new nuclear plant in the last century, in the 20th century, was twice as high as originally estimated. There are reactors now that are supposedly going to go under construction in Florida, whose estimated price has tripled prior to even digging the first shovel at the construction site.
Patrick Moore, what are you going to do with the nuclear waste?
We're going to recycle it and use the 90% of the energy that's still in it. One of the great secrets that's been kept from the American people is that the used nuclear fuel, which does contain a small amount of waste that needs to be taken out of it before it can be recycled, the used nuclear fuel that is now at all the reactors around the country is one of the most important future energy resources which is domestic for the United States. There's 20 times as much energy in that used fuel as was produced in the original cycle when it went through the first time. But let me answer Harvey's point.
Wait,
about
I want on that issue of waste. I want to get Harvey Wasserman's response to that.
Oh, by the way, that's utter nonsense, talking about pie-in-the-sky technology. The recycling of nuclear fuel has been a disaster in Britain, France,